All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be starting our beginners series into JavaScript. And we're going to start it off with string manipulation. So what we're going to do here delete everything, redo the intro in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everyone to the beginner series of JavaScript. And today we are going to be starting with string manipulation, a little bit more in-depth of a look into strings. One thing I am going to do also as part of this series is I'm going to take one or two of the methods and do kind of a video playing with them. So that'll be kind of hand in hand with the main topic videos, but also something kind of a little extra as well that will be in a separate video. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look into also a little bit about how to look things up when we actually do this, to give you guys kind of a helpful view of how to start doing some searching on your own as well as things like that. But anyway, enough talking. Let's get started. So string manipulation, we're going to look a little bit more in depth, recover everything about that. Two big things to remember is the strings are iterable, but they are immutable, and that's going to be a big thing that we're going to have to work around when we start playing with strings. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to try and do everything in a problem-based approach. So what today we're going to work on is we're going to try and build a title case method or generator, however you want to call it. And what I mean by that is, let's start with what our problem is going to be, okay? So in this, what we're going to do is, let's say we have a list of users that we're going to get from a database, and we're going to come up with a greeting for them, okay? So we want, kind of how as we did in the last video, we want something like it to print out, hello and the user's first name. So if their first name is like John. The problem is, in the database, the users are all stored in lowercase, so their name is like that, okay? So if we look at it, we have some built-in functions. So let's say we have const, yeah, that was spelled right, const name is equal to, and we have a string of John, right? Okay. Okay. Let's bring up our console, and we have our John. So we have a couple of things that we do, or that we can do with some built-in, is we do have one that's called my Vim key bindings are still stuck in my head. All right, so we have a to uppercase function there, and as you can see in our output right there, we get John, but it's all in uppercase. So that's not going to work, right? So, if we, and the immutable part, as I'm trying to say here, it's like, let's say, okay, I know I just want the first one. So what if I do the first one and then I do dot, to uppercase? You already know that this isn't going to work, because what it's going to do is it's just going to give us the one, that's J. Now we could do something like, maybe we could do something like, and then we do something like this, and we do one, two, three. Did I not spell it right? It should be splice. It's not slice. Okay. It is slice. Never mind, I got it wrong. Now we could do something like this. But the only problem is this doesn't fix it, because then we would have to do this everywhere we wanted to do it. So what these guys are is these are built-in string functions. as you can see. Slice is just grabbing the portions of the string, and it's starting at the first index, and it's grabbing all the way up until 4. So that's what that's doing. This is just grabbing the very first index, printing it out. The problem is, after we do something like this, then what we see is this is still just the plain lowercase name. Now we could take this and reassign this to a different variable too. So at that point, we could reuse it if we assigned it to a different variable. But let's say instead of typing this out here, we wanted a function that did this as well. Now, how would we go about this? Well, we know. All right, so now let's start figuring out how we're going to do this. So we know we need this kind of thing to happen, but maybe we don't really want to do it that way. Maybe we want to make it slightly simpler. Even though this way works, we can assign it to a variable. We could reuse it later on. Let's do something a little bit different. So what we need to start thinking of is breaking things down into steps. What is the smallest step possible that we can use to move forward? And in that case, one of the big things we need to do is we need to take this from an immutable state into something that we can mutate, something that we can change, because we're not changing anything here. We're dependent on this function to bring this to an uppercase and things like that. Okay? And right now we couldn't reassign this to anything because we need this in order to do this. So let's go to our website. And so what we could do is we could just do something here and do like in, and one thing when you're searching programming related questions is you always want to have the language that you're using somewhere in the statement. Don't ever just do a blind statement, because then you're going to get a whole bunch of different things. So always, and JavaScript, a lot of the times you can just do is JS. So in JS, what we need to do is we could do, something like and this is what it would be called. It's called title case string. And what we're going to get in here is we're going to get 3, we have some things, some different, you have the Stack Overflow, you have the free code camp, you have W3 Docs, which is part of W3 Schools. It's really good. These Geeks for Geeks is also really good information site too. But this kind of gives us the answer, and it's not always how we're going to be able to look up things. So how would we want to look up things? Well, the first thing we need to do is know how to make a string mutable. So we go JavaScript, and you can type in just that, make a mutable. Okay? And we get a whole bunch of different questions, and some of these may be bad and maybe not what we're looking for. We're going to get a lot of different things here too. But it'll start you maybe looking in the right direction. And actually, this first one here, we get this one, and this is a good answer, and your answer is actually right there. String manipulation such as trim and slice. Okay, well, we have a thing to go there. So now we need to look up what these things are. So now what we can do is JavaScript, and we can look up slice. Notice we're already using slice, right? We're not quite using slice in this method. So we get the two up here, the developer Mozilla. So this is going to be like JavaScript's actual documentation. The W3 Schools one is really good. It gives examples, and generally it's going to be a little bit easier to read. I like to choose this one first off, and then if I need really in-depth information, then I'll go into the Mozilla one. So we see here that we can do, hey, what we're doing there, right? We can do that, and it gives us that. Start, end. So that's one way, but that's not exactly what we want too. We didn't actually find the one we want. But the one that I'm going to go with is a little bit different, okay? So we're going to look it up here real quick. Okay, And we're going to do this. It's called string splitting. And this is what we want, because this is going to give us a lot of control over how we do it. And this is called dot. So what is splitting going to do? Well, that's easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do, and we're going to give this a name, and we're just going to say, hey, this is the name copy, and this is going to be name dot split. And what we need to do here is what we're going to do is we're going to pass in, I kind of wish, we're going to pass in what's called the delimiter. So real quickly, what we'll do is we'll just pass in a string and just do that, okay? And what we'll do here is instead we'll get rid of all of you. And here we'll do and we'll do that, and we'll clear this out. Okay, so now what you see is when we pass in a blank string like this, what it's going to do is it's going to actually take and separate out each letter. Okay, let's say we had a full name here. Okay, now we're going to get John white space Smith. What if we wanted to break this out and be able to manipulate each word instead of each letter? Well, we add a white space character. Now we get each word. Okay. So that is helpful. And so you can imagine we can do something like this too. And you can add commas, we could add other punctuation, we could add specific letters, and it will split out each one of those. But for now, what we want is we just want each letter to come out. So we have access to that. Now let's go simply first. I'm going to do this. And so now what we do is this is actually really simple. Now we're going to kind of do that same thing, but now we can manipulate this. So we can say now that we can say that name copy and then index of 0 equals name copy index of 0 dot to uppercase. Okay. Now look what we have. Now it's actually been manipulated, and we have the capital J in there. So now what we need to do is we need to put everything back together into a single string that we can pass in there. Okay, so now what we do is we do name is equal to name copy dot join. Okay, and then here, I'm just not happy about that. Maybe I got the wrong function title. Let's pass name back in here. Name copy dot join. Here's my little error. Name is read only. Name should not be. Oh, it is read only. We need to let this be let. Okay, there we go. And now, oops, we have a little mistake here because we still have all the commas. So now what we need to do to get rid of those commas is we need to do the same thing we did with the split and just add an empty string in there, and there we get our John. Okay, so now let's actually make this a little bit more practical and a little bit more true. What we're going to do is we're going to actually turn this into a function. Okay. So how would we go about that? Let's say we're going to call it function, and we're going to call it to title case. Okay, and what we're going to input is we're going to input a string. Let's just call it that. Open this up. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to just copy that. And does it not give me a paste? Okay, get rid of you. Okay, so what we need to do here is instead of doing name.split, we're going to replace that. This is going to now become string. And then what we're going to do is instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to return this name copy.join. Okay. And then what we're going to do in here is we're going to pass in two title case, and then what we'll pass in is name. And you notice here we get our title case name. So that is an introduction into how we do string manipulation. Two different ways of doing some making it mutable. You had the first way. We have this nice way that actually is turned into a function. Basically, key points to take away from this is this string.split method. We will use this a lot. To uppercase, also it's to lowercase variant. We use that a lot to do, database stuff like that, API calls, just to make sure everything stays the same. And then this .join method, it's an easy way to turn strings into arrays and then back into strings. And that is a very, very simple way to make strings mutable and to be able to easily change them. So that was for the beginner series, an introduction to string manipulation, starting to get into some string methods. All right, so that's going to be it for the beginner series of strings. We started off with some string manipulation, how to make them mutable, and some string methods. We're going to take a look later on too and break out some of these actual string methods and explain kind of what the methods are in another video. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.